Testing. Okay. Yep. That's good. Let's go. Hello and welcome to the second episode of the RFF Podcast. It's that time of week again. You know the drill. We're here to discuss all things RFF related from the Weekend League, Div 1 and Div 2 from midweek. We'll start by introducing everyone. Tonight we are joined by Ryan, Phil, Owen and Flix, and we will speak to them separately when we ask the question. So we'll start off then with the Weekend League, which saw us take to the Hungaroring and Russia. Now, we went to Hungary for an 18-minute qualifying session, 25% race, and then Russia was the reverse grid race. Hungary saw STO and put it on pole position, but he had a difficult race from there on in, so he rounded out finishing P9. Eventual winner for Hungary was jhammer_44 with Luke Enright and Cody rounding out the podium positions for this particular race. So we know Hungary is a difficult track to overtake on, so overtaking opportunities were minimal. So good evening, Ryan, how are we doing?
Hello mate, I'm good, and you?
Yeah, not too bad. Struggling for things to say about Hungary, to be fair, because it's not exactly a track notoriously known for overtaking. So, well, obviously, looking at Hungary race result, the biggest thing for me is, and I know he's in the podcast, he's in the party, but I'm going to say it anyway. Owen starting P1 on the grid and finishing P9. A very poor race from the championship leader.
Yes, to drop 8 places at Hungary, it's not heard of, with it being such a difficult track to overtake on. We do know that he did have a difficult race and a couple coming together, and having to make an extra stop than everyone else. It's tough. If you make a mistake at Hungary, you do pay for it. There's minimal runoff. It's mainly all grass.
Spot on, thank you, mate. And we'll come to you then, Phil. How you doing, mate? You alright? Good, thank you. Your first appearance on the RFF podcast in week 2. So, obviously, we've just talked about with Ryan briefly and quickly about Owen's downfall of Hungary, but let's talk about the biggest gainer in Hungary. Now, Flix, he DNF'd in qualifying. He made a mistake in qualifying and unfortunately he retired from the session. But with the help of the VSC a little bit and the safety car, it brought him back into play. And when he made his stop, he came out around P8 and managed to recover up to P5 then. So from P15 to P5 in Hungary, what do you think inspired Flix to be able to produce such a great drive? And he only finished 10 seconds off the lead, so he had a great drive. What do you think helped him, perform like that?
Yeah, obviously, I mean, round Hungary was obviously strategy comes into play, and I think on the day he had a very good strategy, and obviously safety car definitely helped him out, but you can't take it away from him. He's done a good job to gain those points.
Brilliant, mate. Thank you very much. And Owen, we talked about Luke last week. Again in Hungary, he had another good, strong performance. Qualified 6th and finished P2. What do you think's making Luke tick? Is it the Alpine, or is he just right place, right time, or is it just being Mr. Consistent?
Well, as we said last week, Luke Enright being Mr. Consistent overall, really. I mean, Luke Enright recently really stepped up his game, being consistent. He's constantly up there in the podium places, constantly top 5, constantly top 6, 7 in qualifying, always getting themselves in the right place and right time. Great strategies as well by himself, getting in those positions, and yeah, overall really consistent.
Thank you very much, mate. And Flix, we'll come to you then. Another standout performer for Hungary, especially, was Lockie. Started 12th and finished P6. Obviously, Lockie is not notoriously known for being one of the quicker guys in the division, but he showed some good pace.
Yeah, he's just, hungry, very hard to overtake, very hard to keep it on the track, and, make one mistake and your race is pretty much over from there. But Lockie, he kept it consistent, got all the strategies right, and didn't get into any tangles with anyone, didn't get into any incidents. And at the end of the day, he just managed to win on the day, and yeah, managed to get a good position in P6.
Brilliant, and we'll just recap you through the finishing order then from Hungary before we move on to Russia. So obviously I've gone through the top three, so we'll go from four. A. Norris was fourth, Flix was fifth, Lockie was sixth, Keel was seventh, Ben Smith eighth, Owen ninth, Tinker Taylor 10th, Brownie 11th, Colour GFX 12th, Phil 13th, and Greg 14th. So then we went to the reverse grid race, which was at Russia. And, well, there was a few incidents at Russia, to say the least. One notoriously, which was significant on the race result, which saw A. Norris get a 10-second time penalty, which drops him from obviously the overall race winner down to P3, promoting Owen and Jack up to P1 and P2 respectively. But let's talk about Greg to start with. P6 for Greg. Ryan has had a difficult start to life in the weekend league, but with Lockie's penalty, got a P5, so that's a good result for Greg. Something he can build on going forward from this weekend.
Yes, Greg is one of our newer drivers. He's come to the grips of the league quite quickly. He's got consistent results most weeks. Some weeks he does have difficult results where he DNFs or gets tangled in contact. But P5 from Greg, it's a great result. Not currently in a full-time seat, but them results keep coming. He could get one.
And any words of advice to Greg to keep this going?
Honestly, Greg, you just keep doing what you're doing. It's great to see you on track every week. The results get better and better.
And standout performer for you from the weekend league?
For
last
me,
weekend?
it has to be Tinker Taylor. Two top 10 results after some difficult weeks. It's a huge improvement.
Thank you very much, mate. We'll come back to you when we move on to the standings for this division. So back to Phil, and just a quick one, Phil. Apparently, some people can't hear you. I'm getting reports. I don't know. I'm guessing your broadcast settings are all set up. Yeah, no worries then. We'll continue then. We'll get straight back to it. So, looking at the race results, we had a last, with penalties afterwards, we had a last to first from Jay Hamilton, score 44. What do you think helped them? I'm talking about myself in the third person and I hate doing it. What do you think helped them go from the back of the grid to the front of the grid in such a short space of time?
Again, strategy comes into it. Russia is a little bit of an easier track to overtake on, especially with that long straight at the beginning. But you've still got to be quite aggressive in turn one to get the overtakes. But I think the key thing was strategy, consistency, good launch off the line as well. I think he made a couple of positions off the line as well.
Yeah.
And the safety car, I think, helped as well. I think we had a safety car, don't you?
No, we did VSC. I had to pit on the end of lap 1. I had to do 2 stops, pit at the end of lap 1, and then pit again.
But yeah, I mean, the consistency is something that will always help in any race situation. If you're consistent, don't make mistakes, get the overtakes done, you're always going to make up positions. But you go for time as well. It's very important.
And stand-up performer from the weekend league for yourself, please, mate.
Again, I have to go Team Taylor. Very, very, very difficult first to get to top finishes, and actually get involved in some good battles from what I saw. Yeah, two very good starts.
Thank you very much, mate. So we'll move on to Owen then. And Owen, well, I'm going to ask you about your own race from your perspective. Talk to us about your battles and challenges of having to overtake drivers that you're not used to normally racing against.
Well, it helped obviously at the start. I jumped from P7 to P4. Then unfortunately we did have that VSC, which did put a stop to things a better lap. But after that, yeah, we had great battles with Greg. I had great battles with Lockie and Cody. But yeah, overall, racing with people you don't usually know can be quite challenging at first because you don't know what they're going to do. But it made it very much easier knowing that everyone's going to be clean, everyone's going to be racing as hard and going to show that aggression. And yeah, overall, it's just really, really nice.
And talk to us then about Cody. 12th, finishing 8th, picking up some good points for the Haas team. Also, Lockie, another good result for him. Picking up some good points as well. So, overall then, out of that weekend of racing, who was your driver of the weekend, please, mate?
Well, I'm going to switch things up. Everyone's saying Tinker Tailor at the minute, so I'm going to switch things up. I'm going to give it to Lockie. I mean, P5 in P6 in Hungary and then P5 in Russia. Great pace from him, really. As you said earlier, not one of the quickest drivers in the weekend league, but he's put himself right up there with the big boys, really.
Brilliant, mate. Thank you very much. And then last but no means least, we'll come to Flicks then. And Flicks, let's talk about A. Norris. You know, he pitted on lap 1, took them tyres to the end, kept it pretty quiet to everyone that he had pitted, you know, didn't want anyone knowing what he was doing. Crossed the line in P1, obviously got his time penalty for causing a collision, but finishing on the podium now, that's a good result for him from P11 on the grid. What do you think helped him secure this sort of result, which he's not produced so far in the weekend league?
Yeah, I think it was just down to strategy, really. VSC came out lap 2, I'm pretty sure, and you know he started on soft, so I think he thought in his head, right, I can get mediums to the end and hope no one else does the same strategy as him, and no one else did. And then when everyone had to pit, he was 20 seconds ahead of everyone. Yeah, that was what made him win, but unfortunately he did get that penalty. But to still finish on the podium, getting such a massive penalty, is really good from him.
And driver of the week, mate, in terms of weekend league, please?
Owen's already said this, but I'm going to have to go with Lockie because, you know, we don't really see Lockie up at the top. But today, you know, he started Hungary 12th to 6th. It's just amazing on a track that you can never overtake on pretty much. And then Russia 9th to 5th just proves that he's the type of person that can make up positions, make them stick, and yeah, finish in a very good position.
Thank you, mate. So we'll just have a quick run through then the driver standings as we head into rounds 9 and 10, then the last 2 rounds before the 1 week break that we've got. So we've got ST Owen on 258, Luke Enright on 222, Flicks on 151, J Hamilton on 146, A Norris on 142, Phil and Cody respectively on 127, and then we've got Lockie on 94. Ryan, do you see any sort of changes happening in them positions as we look to head towards not only this weekend's of racing, but when we come back after the break? It's looking like it's Owens to lose, with especially now Luke also now missing a race as well.
I mean, with the two upcoming tracks, one very good for overtaking and the other not so easy. So Owen, with a good qualifying session, can get ahead quickly. He already does have a little bit of a cushion with the point gap. With Luke missing these two races, it's even bigger with just over 100 points. It is his all to lose at this point, but Jay Hamilton has made some great moves up the table from the bottom to P4 now in just 2 weeks of racing.
Thank you, mate. And Phil, do you see any changes happening from the standings at the minute, really, looking at it? Owens to lose?
Yeah, I mean, like Ryan said, it's Owens to lose. He's got a lead. Obviously, Luke's missing the races this week, so Owen just needs to get a little bit of consistency, get the points in, and really build that lead. I can't see another challenger coming through. Maybe yourself. You've got two very good results after 2 weeks of racing. You're right up there, and you've got past people that have been racing every single race. But Owen just needs to get the consistency in, and yeah, it's his to lose.
Thank you very much, mate. And Flicks, then, what do you see? Do you see any changes happening this weekend in the standings? Significant changes before the break?
As you said yourself, as Phil said, if Owen doesn't gain a lot of points here, he's got a free chance to extend his gap even more than it already is. And as well yourself, 2 weeks and you're already fourth. If you keep Jay Hamilton, if he keeps that up, he can potentially challenge Owen for drivers, but we'll wait and see if that happens.
Thank you, mate. And finally, Owen, then, as you are the championship leader in the weekend league, we'll leave you till last. Yeah, you must be pretty happy, mate, looking at that, knowing now that obviously Luke is missing this weekend as well. Everyone around you seems to be missing races, and you seem to be obviously able to race. So that consistency itself is going to help you. But how are you finding it so far?
Well, I mean, being a championship leader, pressure can get to you, let's say, from past experience. You start to make silly mistakes in races, and you just drop points, really. But what I need to do is, as like Phil and Flicks have said, I just need to be consistent in scoring them points, getting on the podium, getting some wins, extend that gap out to Luke and Wright, who I didn't even know was missing this week's race, so thanks for that. Yeah, just need to build on what points we've got now and hopefully have a better weekend than I did from last week.
Just one final thing on the weekend league before we move on to the F1. I'm coming for you.
Bring it on.
That's it. That's the spirit. Thank you very much, mate. Alright then, so we will move on then to midweek then, and we will start with Div 1 as we normally do. This week saw us go to Canada for our qualifying and race, and then saw us do the reverse grid at the USA. Now, looking at qualifying, Lewis Furtado put it on pole by over 0.6 of a second, but had a difficult race and ended up doing a two-stop strategy. This put him down to P8. This opened the door for other drivers to challenge, and which saw eventual race winner Esti Owen win the race by 92 thousandths from Harry S2. Now, Pegasus, that is some close racing to be 92 thousandths at the line. If you're Owen, you're gassed. If you're Harry, you're deflated.
I mean, Canada, it's the final straight. The DRS is so powerful, and if you've got enough battery, your car will fly down that straight. The final chicane, if you're in front at the final chicane, that's a wrap. You really can't get back in front because that DRS straight just isn't long enough to make a lunge for the line.
Thank you very much, mate. And Phil, good result for Spider. A podium position after qualifying P5. He finished P3, so that's a good result for Spider. Obviously, Spider's one of 2 drivers in Div 1 that we know run Elite. So that P3 is a good result for him.
Yeah, very good result. And again, it comes back to previous points I've said. It's consistency. I know Spider. I know how he races. He's always very consistent. But running elite as well. Because Canada looks an easy track, but it's not.
No, it's not. You're right.
To get the P3 is a really good result.
Thank you very much, mate. And Owen, we'll come to you then. And a special mention to, now, correct me if I get his name wrong, Trottery. Qualified 14th, managed to get it up to 5th. So it looks like he avoided when others made a mistake, he capitalised. Obviously, he finished a bit off the pace in terms of fastest lap and overall gap. But to take P5, he'll be happy with that.
Yeah, he will be happy with that. Also, Zadina as well from 15th to 4th. That's a good mention we can give. Both of them drove fantastically, really. I mean, we know Totroy, not the fastest person on the grid, but when he avoids all the carnage, he can get himself in good positions. As well with Zadina, we know he had a few connectivity issues during qualifying, which means he couldn't do a proper run. So, to get himself from the back of the grid up to 4th place, him and Totroy, really impressive from both of them.
Thank you very much, mate. And we'll move on to Flicks then. And, we'll talk about, well, the race from your perspective, really. You've started 8th, finished 7th. Doesn't look great, but from the sounds of it, you had a pretty busy race.
Yeah, well, every week I try to start on the mediums because I just hope that one week the alternate strategy eventually works and maybe I get a safety car when I need to pit and, it never works out. But yeah, it was a very exciting race. I tried to let Harry through, tried to block STO in, but he got the win in the end. And also it was what was I going to say? It was a great battle with Lewis Furtado and Totri, if that's how you spell his name. I had good side-by-side battles with him. Very nice to race. And yeah, it was Canada, pretty exciting race. And I did only manage to gain one position, but, one position is better than nothing.
Thank you very much, mate. So the reverse grid then for Div 1 saw us take to the Circuit of the Americas, which saw a return to winning ways for Sir Pegasus 30. This win has been a long time in the making. The guy has shown some great pace over the past 6 months, but it's always seemed to be elusive of him. This is his first midweek win as well in terms of RFF and his second win in the league's history. This also saw ST Owen and Flix round out the podium with an interesting strategy choice, but the biggest story coming out from the USA GP was that championship leader Harry DNF'd. Now Ryan, with Owen finishing P2, and obviously congratulations on your win, and Harry DNFing and not scoring, that championship lead has come down massively. It's on now, surely.
I mean, first of all, thank you very much. It is a great feeling to get back on the top step of the podium. But yeah, Harry, one lap in, he got wing damage. He boxed for the new set of tyres, and I just don't think they got up to temperature quick enough. He went through sector 1 and just lost it.
Costly error then. Could be a costly error when we look back at it in 6 weeks' time.
Mm-hmm.
Any more to add, or?
It's just
No?
it's a costly 40 points that maybe could have gone to him.
Yeah, rightly so. And then, okay, thank you very much, Phil. We'll talk about Owen and Flix's strategy because they both boxed, and I believe it was either lap 2 or lap 3 they pitted, and they took the mediums to the end. And it kind of worked for them, really, because from being 15th and 9th to finishing P2 and P3, that seems like a good gamble to me.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you have got to gamble in these situations, and looking at the race results, the gamble paid off for them, and they both got very good results. I believe Ryan went through the medium softs.
He did, correct.
Obviously, he was on the fast tyre at the end of the race, so obviously that helped him out to get the victory, which, well done, Ryan. But yeah, Flix and Owen to come from, especially Owen, first back to the grid, to get that strategy working and finish P2 is really good.
Thank you very much, mate. We'll move on to STO and then we'll talk about sorry, I couldn't get my words out then. I just froze for a second. Kev, finishing P4. Kev is the other driver in our Div 1 league that runs a league. That's a good result for Kev. Obviously started third, finished 4th, so he's only lost one place.
He did the same strategy as Ryan, really, and it paid off for him. I mean, only losing one position from P3 to P4 was really good work for him, really. I mean, other strategy, I guess, the people who pitted on lap 2 on the VSC and the people who pitted later on the race after the VSC, they were both basically on equal terms, really. I mean, Kev was in the lead, I think, I'm pretty sure. But I'm not sure what happened, really. He had like a good 26-second gap at the pit stops to myself and Flix, but came out behind us. I'm not sure if he had wing damage or anything, but yeah, it's a really strong show from him.
Thank you very much, mate. And Flix, then we'll move on to you, and run us through it. What was your take on the Grand Prix? Obviously, you started 9th, finished 3rd. Any standout moments for you from the USA?
I just really think Julian could have had a very good result because although he started first, he unfortunately DNF'd, but I'm pretty sure he was away from everyone and he had the fastest lap in the end, so could have had a good result. As you said, or as Phil said, sometimes you've got to gamble, and as I think 5 drivers pitted under VSC, when you're that far back, you've either got to pit or cut through the traffic, and I think we all just decided pit, try and undercut everyone and see where we land, and it worked for me and Owen. I'm not sure if it worked for anyone else, but it certainly worked for me and Owen.
Thank you very much, mate. And then we'll go back then to Pegasus. Obviously, the points gap between Harry and Owen is 27 points, and with our point system, that can change in one race. So it's all to play for in Div 1. Obviously, you've got Flix, who's still got an outsider chance, but it's looking at the minute like it's Harry versus Owen. How do you see this going after we resume racing?
Honestly, I could see this going like the 2021 season went right down to the wire and right down to the last race. These 2 drivers are one of our 2 faster drivers in this division, as you can tell by the results. And I think they keep tossing, turning, returning each other, overtaking each other. And I think this could go right down to the last race.
Thank you very much, mate. And we'll move on to Phil. Obviously, not racing in Division 1, an outsider, looking at the standings. What's your take on championship situation, can you see it going either way? Who do you think's got momentum? You know, that's key in this sort of battle.
Yeah, you've got to keep the momentum going. So if you get a win in the first race, if you're able to get a podium in the second race where it's the reverse grid, you've done a really good job that week. Harry's a really good driver. Owen's a really good driver. But as you say, the point system that we've got, all it takes is one mistake in one of the races, and let's say Harry, for example, crashes in one race, Owen wins the race. The championship lead will change because of the way that our point system works. So it comes back to the consistency thing, keeping on top of the game, and getting the results that you need, really. So getting the podium finishes, they just need to keep consistency going. But it's really close, and as Ryan said, I think it could go to the wire, and it could come down to the final stage.
And one more thing, as an outsider, if you was to have a stab in the dark right now, obviously we're at the week break, so when we come back, we've got 4 weeks of racing, 8 rounds. Who would you back to be champion come the end of May?
I'm going to say Harry.
Any particular reason? I know it's a difficult question.
I just think consistency. I do see, obviously, tonight, I ranked the lowest a little bit more. And as he said himself, sometimes when you change the sides, a few mistakes start to creep in. I feel like, although Harry did, make a couple of mistakes, I just feel like he can be the more consistent out of the two of them, and I think he can win it.
Thank you very much, mate. Obviously, Owen, you are in this championship battle in Div 1. Flix is in it, sort of, but at the minute it's really you and Harry. So let's get your take on it. Obviously, you're going to back yourself, I know that, so I'm not going to ask you that question. But I'm going to ask you, what do you think you need to do? Obviously, beat Harry to claw back these points, but do you think there's anything that he's got an advantage of you on in a certain area, or do you think it's fairly even?
Advantages, massive advantages. Pace overall, much faster. On a pad as well. So it's great pace for him on a pad, really. His qualifying pace is outstanding, really, when he hooks up a lap. He didn't really show us that in Canada last week, invalidating his last 2 runs. So when he gets a qualifying lap hooked up, it can be a massive difference. It can be over at least 6 tenths a second quicker than second place or my time. I just need to improve, really, on race pace, quality pace, overtakes as well. Harry's really good at getting overtakes done at certain places where he knows he'll get the job done. I just need to be a bit more patient with where I overtake people. I get a bit hissy-fitty when I'm stuck behind a slower driver, really. I like to tell them to move a lot.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. And Flix, from you before we move on to Division 2. Obviously, if these two have a couple of bad races, you're right back in it. So, are you sitting there looking at thinking, I can win this? Or are you sitting there thinking, if they make a mistake, maybe, but I'm just going to keep doing my thing? How are you approaching it?
I think I'll be lucky if I even get second in the championship. My aim is just to finish where I am, really, and so trying to fend off Kev and Pegasus, who are doing exceptionally. I can't even say a word. They're doing well in the standings and could catch up to me. But if they make a mistake, I make more mistakes than them, and they just got more pace than me, more consistent, and they always get the strategy right. So I think I can't go up, but it's going to be interesting to see out of those two who can win.
Thanks, mate. Just before we go to Div 2 then, boys, who was your driver of the week for Div 1, please?
Mine would have to be... it would have to be Owen. P2 and P1. Just a good 74 points there.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah, same for me. Specifically because of the second race where he went from 15th to second. Good gamble. And yeah, gets my vote.
Thank you.
Well, obviously, I would like to vote for myself, but unfortunately I can't.
I'll tell you what. I'll let you. If you want to vote for yourself this time, I'll let you vote for yourself here.
Yes, I will vote for myself.
Oh, the confidence and the arrogance.
We'll get a couple of mentions for Kevin, Zadina, and Toto in there as well.
Thanks, mate. Flixie?
I'm gonna have to give it to Spider, because in both races, I'm looking at the standings. You know, he's the only driver apart from Owen and Pegasus to really have a consistent finish. Third and seventh, quite close to each other, and yeah, been really well done.
Thank you, mate. So then we move on to Division 2 then for midweek, which saw us again take to Canada and the Circuit of the Americas, USA. The race results finished with Twins John crossing the line in P2, but taking the win due to a time penalty to second place. However, he was given a 5-second post-race penalty for a safety car infringement, which then saw him drop down to P2, and with Victor Knorr dropping from P3 to P6, he's promoted PJH to P3. Now, Pegasus, this is Phil's best result to date in Div 2, around a track that he won't mind me saying this, but he's notoriously known for crashing at. So he's got to be happy with that podium position, surely.
Yeah, he's got to be happy with that podium. He was one of the few drivers who made 2 stops in that race. Both the Mercedes boys on the podium. It's got to be a great feeling.
Yeah, back to sharing the podium like the good old days, Philly. Just not the normal 1-2 that we used to have. Essex man, P4 after Victor's penalty. Colin, proper nice bloke is Colin. He won't mind us saying this. He's not the quickest, but to get a P4 at Canada, he's got to be really happy with that, surely.
in P4 after Victor's penalty is really good result.
And moving on to Owen, then we'll give a special mention to Brownie, starting P11 and working his way up to finishing in P7. Obviously, the safety car came out, so in the end, he only finished 17.6 seconds off the pace. But that's his best result to date in Div 2, Brownie, a P7. So, what do you think's made Brownie go from being so far off the pace to being able to get a P7?
Practice, really. I mean, we know he's just recently switched onto a wheel, so he's getting the practice, and it clearly shows here with his race results getting in P7. So yeah, if he keeps practicing like this and keep doing what he's doing, he'll get himself up a few more places.
Thank you, mate. And Flix, we'll come to you. Obviously, as an outsider looking in, summarise the Canadian Grand Prix for us. Pick us out your key performers and drivers that you would have expected to have done better but have underperformed.
I want to highlight two people. First of all, I want to highlight Greg. I know he lost a position. He started 5th and finished 6th. But to do 3 stops and to still finish in the top 6 is quite impressive. You know, only 2 other people in the top 6 did another stop. And I think that's quite impressive. And also, Johnny from 12th to coming first on track, but unfortunately getting that penalty to dropping down to P2, that's quite impressive as well. And I think as well, Essex man, he from 9th to 5th, you know, to do that, it's quite impressive. Good strategies, very consistent, and yeah, all well round for Div 2.
Thank you very much, mate. So then the reverse grid saw us go obviously to the Circuit of the Americas USA, which saw Rollers start in pole position. Obviously, Howard finished first at Canada, started at the back for the USA. Obviously, Johnny finished second on track at Canada, taking the win, obviously getting his penalty. But DNF'd right at the start of the USA Grand Prix. So, all in all, a difficult weekend for Johnny again. He just seems to have some pace, but just seems to lack consistency, Ryan.
Yes, to DNF lap 1, it is quite unheard of in racing. You do all this practicing, all this build up, all to just come crumbling down in the first few corners, and to take a race win on track in race 1 as well, it's got to be devastating.
So Phil, obviously USA was a difficult race for you yourself. With your misdemeanor, which meant you went into a wall and retired from the race. I won't make you relive that, don't worry. But Roles P3, Colour GFX P4. That's 2 good results for them lads there.
Yeah, not bad at all, considering that I think both of them had quite a good time in the first race in Canada. So for both of them to get those positions is good. And Roland as well, special mention, he let us know that he was maybe help him sort of push on and get some more results like that in the future.
Thank you, mate. So Owen, then we'll come to you and let's talk about Raging Rambo. First podium in RFF, taking a P2. He's got to be happy with that, surely.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, starting from P2, finishing in P2. Obviously, yeah. Well chuffed with that. He's got to be, really. I mean, also keeping up with the pace as well. Only 2/10 off the fastest lap from what I can see there. So he has got the pace there, and it showed in that race.
Thank you, mate. And Felix, then summarise us the race then from a neutral perspective in Division 2 at USA. Stand-up performance for you and probably people that should have performed better but didn't.
Yeah, it was quite spread out, Div 2. It was yourself and Rambo up top and Roles just in a world of his own in P3. But again, I'm going to have to give it to Roles, you know, because as I said before, in previous races, you know, he's not been at the top with a load of people fighting for, like, even for a podium. But now, because he's turning down assists, you can clearly see it's really helping him come to the top and get a podium, so well done to him. Also, Colour GFX, P12 to P4 is just really impressive, you know, starting from near the back and coming to get P4 nearly a podium is quite impressive. And under mine, people, I think Cops Beckett should really be up there. You know, he started P3 in USA, and I really think he could have held on to a podium or even finished near that.
Spot on, mate. Thank you. So then, we'll look at the Division 2 driver standings. And Ryan, do you see any sort of significant change in the championship happening before the end of the season?
The only changes I can see happening are P2 and down, because Jay Hamilton, with his third Grand Slam of the season, getting the maximum amount of points for the third week in succession.
Yeah, looking at that, obviously, if you look at it from, and I don't want to sound arrogant or horrible, but if you look at it from P2 to Phil, 65 points, which can easily swing in one full week of racing. So that's all to play for there. If you was to put money on it now, who would your top three be come the end of the season?
By the end of the season, I'll put my money on Jay Hamilton, Victor, and a surprise one, but I think Phil could get back up there.
Thank you very much, mate. And Phil, then we'll come to you. Looking at the standings, pick us out someone that you think's performing well, and someone that you think's probably underperforming in terms of the driver standings.
I mean, like you've seen, Golden there in second place currently, just as much Victor. I think both of them have been really good, but Robert has been a little bit more consistent, picking up points. Victor getting a few mistakes in racing recently, which isn't helping for position there. And I'm underperforming on as well. It's very, very tough. It's just been a few races where I've made mistakes. Canada, I thought, you know, USA set well, running first when the incident actually happened. And yeah, so I would say myself for the person who's not performing as they probably should be.
One positive though, you are in the team that are leading the team championship at the minute, so that's one positive to take away from a negative. Any thoughts on the constructors, and do you see Mercedes taking that come the end of the season?
I don't see that changing, to be honest. I think with the way that you're performing at the moment, obviously I don't want to jinx it, but you're winning races. Obviously don't want to jinx that. Into the group where I'm spinning, but yeah,
I love it.
I think Mercedes will be.
Thank you very much, mate. And then we'll come to you. Same question as Phil. Who do you think's really performing well, and who did you expect to be higher up in Div 2, looking at them standings and what they currently are at the minute?
That's a tricky one, but I'm gonna have to go for College FX really. I mean,
In
raced
terms
him
is that for overperforming or is that for underperforming?
underperforming. Sorry, I should have highlighted that. Yeah, underperforming College FX. I reckon pace-wise, he should be up there with Victor in third place in the championship. Really, just getting some silly mistakes in really, which is costing him some points in the last couple of races. Really, so I expect him to get himself back up there if he gets his consistency right, and yeah, hope to see him up there soon. Like Phil said, Rolex up there, second place. Good work by him, really. As Flicks highlighted earlier, turning them assist there is massively making him his pace improve. And it's clearly we can see that by the standings and the race results we've seen this week.
Thank you very much, mate. Flicks, same question as I've asked the other lads. Overperforming, underperforming, and also, who do you think will make the biggest gain in the second half of the season?
For overperforming, I'm gonna have to give it to Pusaka, because originally when I personally trialled him, and you know he wasn't really on the pace. He was lacking quite a bit, but he was very clean, and you know for him to be fourth in the standings is quite impressive for me. Underperforming, I'm gonna have to give it to Johnny, because even though he's just behind fourth, sitting in fifth, I think he should be higher up and have way more points than he already does, and for me, fighting for second. And the biggest gainer, I'm gonna have to say, is Bill. If he can keep it consistent and get some good results, I think he can battle it out for seconds.
Thank you very much, mate. And final thing then, one word answers. For Div 2, how do you see it going in terms of championship, teams, constructors, from Ryan to Flicks in that particular order? How do you see championship going, constructors, why it's going to go that way, or you don't think it's going to go that way? And yeah, we'll just end it on that, really.
I think I could wrap all those questions up in one singular word, that being Mercedes.
Any particular reason?
I just think the one particular Mercedes driver he's got it clicked. He knows what he's doing. He knows what to do.
Philly?
Yeah, again, Mercedes, constructors, and if we're talking about championship, then I think we can really see it top four. Like I said, in a row this one.
6 actually, 6. Just to clarify that.
Okay. Yeah, I can't see it going any other way, to be honest.
Owen?
Yeah, as everyone said, really. I mean, Mercedes, constructors, as Phil said, as the driver there, won 6 races in a row. If he keeps this up, can we see him win every single race of this season?
6.
It's obviously Mercedes, but I think a good battle for second would be Ferrari and Williams. They're quite close on points, and I think that'd be interesting. And obviously, yourself for drivers, as Owen said, 6 races in a row, really impressive, and it's quite obvious. But I don't want to jinx it now.
Thank you very much, guys. So then I'll just do my wrap of the racing. For me, my weekend lead driver of the week. Not being biased, but I'm going to give it to my little bro, finishing P9 and P10 when he couldn't do a single lap 2 weeks ago without spinning. So well done to him. Brownie had some good performances as well, and so did Lockie. For Div 1, I'm going to give it to Sir Pegasus for coming back and winning that race in great style at the USA. Brilliant to see him back to winning race, much deserved race win. And for Div 2, again, I could be considered biased again, but I'm going to give it to my teammate. Obviously, a difficult USA, but to get a podium at Canada when he's been notoriously known to crash there a lot is a good result. But yeah, that's a wrap then. We'll end it there, the podcast. There won't be one next week because we won't be racing. However, actually, no, we won't do a podcast next week because there's no racing. Obviously, this weekend we are at Jeddah for qualifying for the weekend league, and then we are at the reverse grid at Brazil for the 25% reverse grid race. Before we have a complete week's break in terms of racing. And then we come back to midweek and we were at rounds 11 and 12, so we're Australia and China for them races. China obviously being the reverse grid, so it'd be interesting to see how everyone gets at them 2 tracks. But yep, that's it. Thank you to all those that have tuned in. Thank you especially to the guys that have turned up tonight and done the podcast, and we will see you all soon. Goodbye.